What is up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of For Your Viewing Pleasure. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman, as always, as we take you through the upcoming slate of games. And this week, we're talking about the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Wesley, what's going on?
Well, and then there were 8.
Yep.
We're down to the final 8 teams. Some expected. I think probably the top 4 or 5 is kind of what most people thought would happen. There's a few surprises, but this is great. Like hopefully we get a better round of playoff games. I think the first round of the NFL mostly looked like the first round of the college playoffs, where one team was clearly better than the rest in most games.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I was going to ask you right off the top was your takeaway of Wild Card Weekend? I did a show with Coach Kevin Smith that ran yesterday, and that is the whip around, and it was titled, "Was Wild Card Weekend a dud?" Because really, outside of one game, and I'm talking about Commanders, Buccaneers, these games weren't close. I'm sorry, the Eagles-Packers game might look like on paper 22-10, and then I say, oh, it wasn't close.
Wasn't close.
The Commanders-Buccaneers was very entertaining. If you just are a football fan and just want to watch an entertaining, I thought it was a very entertaining football game. But what was your takeaway on Wild Card Weekend?
Yeah, I mean, 5 of 6 games, not really competitive, and I mean, depending on what your take is, you can say that 2 surprises maybe. I think to most people, I think that most people thought the Chargers would beat the Texans, and the Buccaneers were probably expected to beat the Commanders with their rookie quarterback. I think, did I see that he's the 5th rookie quarterback to win a road playoff game as a rookie?
That'd be news to me.
Something like that, or maybe it's fifth to win a playoff game. Period. But I mean, that's kind of what Jaden Daniels has done all year. Done what rookie quarterbacks are not supposed to do.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't consider that a huge upset. If you've watched the Commanders this year, they can beat anyone. They beat Philadelphia with, well, never mind. That game was different. Kenny Pickett played in that game. But still, the Commanders can beat anyone.
Pickett played well in that game.
That's true. Give him props. Put some respect on that name, Mike.
he might earn a bigger contract in the offseason than Sam Darnold's going to now.
That's true. But the funny thing is I think the biggest surprise of the weekend was Chargers-Texans. Because if you watch that football game, the first half was so slanted to the Chargers. They were dominating, but they were only up 6-0. And it was a broken play that just seemed to turn the tide. I mean, they had the Texans, I think it was 3rd and long. The snap goes over CJ Stroud's head. He doesn't fall on it. He picks it up, scrambles, right, connects for, I think, 35 yards, something like that. And everything shifted. It's going to make for an interesting narrative heading into the divisional round. But I would say the Texans Chargers, that outcome was way more surprising than Commanders Buccaneers, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah. And then, I mean, Rams Vikings is going to be in there. The Vikings are 14-2.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 weeks combined lose 58-18 to the Lions and Rams. And listen, I know the Rams have dealt with injury concerns all year. Their offensive line wasn't healthy, and then their 2 big receivers and Matthew Stafford have all dealt with injuries. If this team's healthy, their defense got it together. And but I don't know if the Lions just showed everybody like, oh, here's what you do to Sam Darnold. But sacking him 9 times is impressive. And this is a scary team now. And I realize that they're fixing to, we're going to talk about, they've got a big game ahead of them. But I think the Rams are a scary team that's not going to be blown out by anybody.
No, I agree 100%. This is just a quick aside. Why are current NFL teams, is this like the Dan Campbell effect that I'm just going to be so aggressive? I'm just always going to pass up points because I always feel like we got to score a touchdown. We got to just sometimes take the points. I just don't get it. I've talked to so many people and everyone's like, yeah, it's these analytics. It's they look at these numbers and they base it off of percentages. Like, go with the feel of the game. Like early in the game, the Vikings passed up a field goal just to keep it within a score. And you're like, oh my gosh, they're going for it. And they don't get it. And it just turns the whole tide. You agree or disagree?
Yeah, I can't stand it, especially in playoff games where, I mean, you hope that they're going to be close games. Dan Quinn did the same thing. And if you're telling me that Dan Quinn, who's been in the league for a very long time, and is a defensive coach, so he should understand how important points are. He gave up the Commanders Buccaneers game should not have been a 1-score game.
Right.
I mean, it was crazy what he was doing. And it's like, I mean, obviously there's jokes. The defensive head coach hates points, so he's going to even take them away from his own team. But yeah, that was crazy by both of them. And listen, there is a butterfly effect or a sliding doors effect. And just because the final score is you lost by 20 doesn't mean that you would have lost by 13 if you had gotten a touchdown earlier. That's not the way it works. The whole game changes and things work. And I don't know. I think it's important to get points. It's important to, whether it's put pressure on the other team, take pressure away from your team. It makes them call the game differently moving forward. I just think that points are important, especially in that first quarter.
Well, to stick with that narrative, if you think back to the first scoring drive of the Rams, they went for it on a 4th and 2. They get it. They end up scoring a touchdown. But the next drive that they have, they settle for a 34-yard field goal because they're like, hey, we want points. Like we know when to be aggressive and we know when just to take the points. I feel like some coaches, and you brought up Dan Quinn, and that's a great, because he's another one that did it in that game on Sunday night. So interesting stuff, but let's not spend too much on the wild.
If I showed you a picture of Dan Quinn and Sean McVay and said one of them is doing the analytics thing, you would have told me it's Sean McVay.
Right.
Like, no, he would, right. But instead he's the one like, no, I'm taking points. I'm being smart about this. Like,
I think he goes with his gut, because sometimes you have to. You can't just look at numbers. This isn't Moneyball, to reference the baseball film. Yep. So let's take a look. This is for your viewing pleasure. We take a look at the upcoming slate of games. And in this case, we're looking at the divisional round. We're just going to go as these games will be coming to you on your television screen Saturday, January 18th, the first game at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That is Texans that we just talked about, and CJ Stroud, who upset. Someone's called it an upset. They beat the Chargers, go to the Chiefs. The Chiefs have had about almost a full month off, 15-2 coming off the bye. This is an interesting spread. Kansas City's giving 8 points. What do you think here, Wesley?
One, I think it's a big spread for a Texans team that just won 32-12 and a Chiefs team that, I get it, they're 15-2, but like 12 of their wins were one-score wins. So I don't get the 8, and I get, yes, technically 8 points is a one-score game. But man, that's for a team that doesn't win by doesn't win by 2 scores or 8 points very often. It's a big spread for them in a playoff game, going against a Texans team that just scored 32 on. The Chargers were the number 1 scoring defense for most of the NFL season.
Yeah.
It's a big spread.
And let's go back. People forget, these two teams played each other just a few weeks ago. It was the Saturday before Christmas Day, the part of the first half of the remix, as the NFL called it. And the Houston Texans lost 27-19. And that was the game where Tank Dell suffered the really gruesome knee injury. I think it was the second half, maybe the third quarter of that game. But this will be an interesting game. I will say this. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of rust early in this game. If I'm the Texans, we have to come out guns a-blazing. Like, we have to come out and put the pedal to the metal. We can't warm to the task. But I actually like the Chiefs to cover in this game.
And here's so I don't. And here's another reason that I don't. Projected temperature at kickoff is 25 degrees.
Nice.
That's the real temperature. It's probably I'm making up. It's going to feel like 16, 17, 12. That's not I mean, I get it. It's Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has not been Patrick Mahomes this season.
True.
Maybe he's going to turn it on in the playoffs. I just don't know if he's going to turn it on in feels like 17.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and the wind chill, who knows what that is? Yeah.
And I know that Joe Mixon hasn't been just killing it this year, but he hasn't been bad either. I'm not sure if this weather makes it a running game. I'm not sure if the Chiefs and their speedsters and their smaller running backs are the ones to take advantage of that.
Fair enough. And I think this is by far, in my opinion, the worst game on the docket.
For sure. Caveat, I said the same thing last year in the first round of the playoffs, that the Dolphins were going to go into Kansas City and upset them because they had the better running game, and the Dolphins got absolutely destroyed, and the Chiefs threw the ball just fine in this same weather. So maybe I'm wrong again.
That was the game where Patrick Mahomes' helmet broke, if you remember that, where he had a chunk of his helmet just flew off. But I think this is the worst game on the slate. If there's a dud in the divisional round, it's this one. If you're going to miss a game, miss this one, because after this, you're going to want to be locked locked in. I think these games are phenomenal. The final three. Let's go to the Saturday night, 8:00 on Fox. Commanders at Lions. The Lions obviously earned themselves a bye. The Commanders, again, it feels like they're playing with house money. Detroit is spotting 10 points at home. That is a huge spread for the divisional round. What's your take here?
I mean, what the Commanders do is they dirty up games and they keep them close. Now, sometimes they dirty it up on offense, but on defense, they keep games close. Their last big, they just beat the Buccaneers by 3 in Tampa Bay. Their last big playoff game type thing, they played the Eagles and they beat them 36-33. And so I don't know. The 10-point spread baffles me. I know we're going to look at the Commanders. They didn't win their division, blah, blah, blah. They're 12-5. They, in the regular season this year, now a 13th win. I just don't think they're getting blown out. Having said that, that's what the Lions have done this year. I just, in a playoff scenario, this is going to be a close game, and you already referenced it. Can Dan Campbell screw this up if it's a close game?
Oh,
can he?
He can. He absolutely can.
What do you think?
I think the Commanders keep it close.
Yeah.
I would take the Commanders getting 10 easily, based on the fact that when I watch Jaden Daniels, because you can watch a rookie quarterback be really, really poised and really, really good in the regular season, and that's fine. And we have seen rookie quarterbacks in recent history see success early in their career. But the playoffs are different. If you can go on the road in the postseason, like Jaden Daniels did in Tampa Bay, and I'm not saying Tampa Bay's defense is legit, but the Lions' defense is banged up. They're giving up points. I think this is a game that Jaden Daniels probably is not going to be flustered. I think a lot of people immediately put the tag of rookie quarterback onto players and think, here comes a crap fest game. And I don't believe that. I think there are some players, especially when you talk about Jaden Daniels, who played college football at LSU. He's been in big games before. He's had pressure on him before. So I think that this is going to be a game. Again, the early stages of the contest are going to be huge. If the Commanders can keep it close, because the Lions, man, they are a high-powered offense, and they are healthy, and they'll be fine. I think I heard David Montgomery might be back for this game, or if not, maybe the NFC Championship if they get that far. But I just don't see this 10-point spread. I think that the Commanders are going to keep it close. I would take the Commanders getting 10 here.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Also, Lions in December played 4 different mobile quarterbacks. Okay. They gave up 31 points to the Packers and Jordan Love. They gave up 48 points to Josh Allen and the Bills. They played the Bears, who are terrible, so we're not even going to talk about that. And they gave up 34 points to the 49ers. This has been a great team. They have a lot of injuries on defense.
Yes.
Now, I think Alex Anzalone coming back was a big factor for them. But Jaden Daniels doesn't care if you get pressure on him. One, he escapes the pocket. He'll also take a sack. He's taken too many sacks this year, but it's just showing he's just relaxed. He's like, I'm going to get you on the next one. He's not going to make a stupid play by just, I got to get rid of the ball, or what am I going to do? He stays relaxed, and sometimes that gets too many sacks. I don't know if the Lions have the people to get those sacks right now.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a close game, and the Lions in December, just in the last, month and a half, have not done great with mobile quarterbacks. They've given up a lot of points.
And let's not forget, like you mentioned, the Dan Campbell effect. Is he going to make a critical decision at a critical juncture, and it's not going to pay off? It's not going to pay dividends. And everyone's just going to say, well, it's Dan Campbell. He's aggressive. He loves to roll the dice. But at some point, it can come back and bite you in the you-know-what. And so that is an X factor here that not a lot of people are discussing, and I think is going to be a big point. Maybe he does roll the dice. We know he's going to roll the dice, but maybe it pays off for him. And
does rolling the dice lead the dice lead to a 20-point win? Maybe.
Good,
but
yeah,
does it lead to a 1-point loss? It could.
We will see. I'm excited for that game. That's going to be a fun game to watch. The total is 55.5. That is crazy. Take the over, by the way. Let's go to Sunday's games. And again, outside of that Chiefs-Texans game, this is really good slated playoff football. The LA Rams, who just won in Phoenix over the Vikings, we mentioned that game. They go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is coming off of a game where they took care of the Packers. The Packers were banged up and got even more injured in the game, but Philly definitely had to get some rust off, and they did so. This is an intriguing matchup because the Rams, like you mentioned earlier in the show, are a hot team. When you talk about teams that are playing well at the right time, there's two teams that come to mind, and the Rams are one of them. This spread is Philly giving 6.5. Now, as surprised as I was last week when they were only spotting 4.5 to Green Bay, I'm surprised that they're giving 6.5 to the Rams after the Rams have played so well.
Yeah, I so I'm going to talk about temperature in another game after this one, but the game time temperature of this game is 38 degrees. Now, if it's a sunny 38 that everybody's kind of comfortable and it's not a lot of wind swirling any of that, I think the Rams keep this really close and are maybe in line for an upset. If it's a real Philadelphia windy 38 that feels like 25 and you just can't get the ball, more than 20 yards downfield, Saquon Barkley absolutely probably dominates this game. And I love Kyren Williams, but I think that the dual threat of Kyren, where you need to be able to hand the ball and maybe toss it to him every once in a while, if it turns this into a running game, then I think that's rough. I don't think it will. It's probably going to be a pretty nice 38 is what I'm hoping. But 6.5 is a lot if the Rams are able to throw the ball at all.
Well, and the total is 43.5. And I asked myself, was the Rams' defensive performance against Minnesota, is that the
just
norm?
Being discounted? Is it just being thrown out the window?
Is that the norm? And I just haven't been paying attention to the Rams defense. Maybe it is, because I'm obviously not paying real close attention to the NFC West. My apologies. But still.
Yeah. So besides the last game of the season where they didn't care against the Seahawks and they rested everybody, there are 3 games before that they give up 9, 9, and 6 points.
Wow.
Now, before that, they beat the Bills 44-42 in an incredibly fun game.
Yes.
But I think the Rams defense is getting healthier and is better than what we've been thinking about because they're such an offensive led team and Sean McVay is just an offensive coach, right? I think that maybe they've been sneaky good. And I get just with the Eagles, if you can stop Saquon, Jalen Hurts is not going to beat you in the playoffs.
It doesn't seem
throwing the ball.
Right.
I keep saying that, and then teams you can't stop Saquon. I get it. He's the best running back in football, and it's probably a lot to say, like, well, if you can just make him one-dimensional. He's the best for a reason. And yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Can any team in the NFL stop Saquon Barkley? Can you keep him under 80 yards in a game? No idea.
I mean, go back to I think the Steelers did, but at the same time, Jalen Hurts ran all over. So they stopped one weapon and you get beat by another. But at the same time, I look at this game and Philly's defense is really good. I still think I would say 43.5. I'm hammering the under on this game. I just think that both of these teams might have tough sledding early on to try and figure out what's going to work best from an offensive standpoint. I would take the under. I think this is going to be a close game. I would think about taking the Rams getting 6.5.
Yeah, I would take the Rams 6.5, and I'm hoping for a upset.
All right, so I talked about teams that are playing well at the right time, and I think that the next 2 teams actually would fall into that category. The Ravens, especially, who have won 6 in a row, including dismantling the Steelers in the wild card round, and they go to Buffalo, and the spread here is very, very intriguing.
What's going on?
Baltimore's giving 1 to Buffalo.
What's going on?
I don't know. Is this because the Ravens beat the snot out of the Bills earlier this season, or is there something else to this? I don't know. But the Ravens are giving 1 point to the home Bills. The Bills are home dogs here with a total of 51.5. This could be a high scoring affair, but I'm sure the weather might come into play. What do we got there?
Well, so yeah, that is a definite point of contention. So as the real temperature is 21 degrees, which in Buffalo could feel like 10 or 5 or 0 once it's 21. We'll see what kind of happens with snow and wind and all that kind of stuff. I agree with you. The Ravens are a hot team, but here's the deal. Since the Ravens on December 1st lost to the Eagles 24-19, they've played the Giants, Steelers, Texans, Browns, and Steelers. And this is not the Steelers team that was playing earlier in the year.
Right.
Now, again, they blew the doors off the Texans 31-2 in Houston. And that was, I can't excuse that one. That's a real win right now. But the rest of those, the Ravens haven't been playing teams that are one mixture of not caring or just not being able to execute right now, because the Steelers have had their problems the last month of the season. So I'm not sure. I get it. The Ravens have been hot. They're a hot team, blah, blah, blah. They haven't really played anybody recently.
True.
And this Bills team is good. And Josh Allen, I think he knows that he's probably going to lose the MVP. And I think he's going to make a statement in this game that y'all are all idiots.
That is an interesting part, interesting facet there when you bring up the MVP rate between these two quarterbacks. I just think that the Ravens, if they can, anytime the Ravens lose, let me put it this way. Every time the Ravens lose in the playoffs, and they've done this a lot in the Lamar Jackson era, they do something that is so stupid that makes you look back after the game and say, what in the hell were they thinking? I'll give you an example. Last year, they hosted the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. They lose, I think, 19-17 or some really close score like that. I think they ran the ball a total of 17 times in that game. We are talking about the Baltimore Ravens. This was before Derrick Henry. If the Baltimore Ravens can approach this game the way that they did the Steelers, and if they get Zay Flowers back, which I do not know what his status is with his knee injury, they're going to be really tough to defend. The total here, 51.5. I'm saying take the over big time, because I think this is going to be an up and down affair unless the wind is ridiculous in Buffalo, which it could. I think this is going to be a very entertaining football game. As for my pick, I really don't know at this juncture who I think is going to win this game. I think it's a toss up.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a fun one. I mean, I would take the Bills because they're the home team getting a point, which is, I don't understand what's happening there.
Yeah.
I will say that with the point that you just made, or what you're referencing, if the Ravens run the ball 17 times, this is a 3-touchdown Bills win.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I don't think they're going to do that.
No.
But man, I love the Saturday and Sunday nightcap games that we have here, Commanders, Lions, and Ravens, Bills. This is a huge game that we'll see. I want this is one, there's other games here. I don't want the weather to be a factor. I want to see what the weather can be here in Buffalo. How cold can it be? And I just, I want to see Josh Allen go off.
It's everything that you look at this slate of games. You talked about the weather in the Chiefs, Texans, the Rams, Eagles, the Ravens, Bills. It's like, it's football. It should be cold. It should be windy. And then you have the Lions playing in a dome. There's something about it that just rubs me the wrong way. It's like when Cleveland's trying to get a dome. It's like, Cleveland is trying to get a dome? What are we doing? It's Cleveland, for crying out loud. The mistake by the lake. It's always got to be crappy weather there. But I digress. I agree with you. I think that I'll take the home team here. It's basically a pick 'em game either way, but I am taking the over in the Ravens and Bills for sure. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. What are your final thoughts here looking at the divisional round slate of games?
I mean, it's cool because I think we've got the big favorites, the teams that are either everybody loves and wants to bet on, or the couple of the teams that everybody hates and just would love for them to lose. And then you've got a couple of the little, LA, they're going to tie in. They're going to tell us all about the fires in LA and how many of the players lost their homes. So that's going to be a good tie-in.
Yep.
Feel good, feel bad story, whatever it is. They're going to love to be able to sell that and talk about what's going on there. The Rams, because of that, are going to be looked at as the underdog, and they got to do it for their community and all that stuff. And then Commanders are going to get the interesting story with Jaden Daniels and the rookie and all that stuff. And then the Texans is probably going to be a hard sell against the Chiefs, but there's probably going to be some stories about CJ Stroud struggling through his second year, but like, here's where he can show that he really is one of the top 5 quarterbacks and, do it in the playoffs two games in a row. It's it's good. There's stories to sell, whether you're a fan of one of the teams playing or not. Like, there's something to watch for.
Yeah. I find myself looking at this like, oh man, poor ESPN. They got Texans Chiefs. Fox got Commanders, Lions, Rams, Eagles is on NBC, and CBS gets Ravens, Bills. And so you're like, man, ESPN really got shut out here on the divisional round. But it is what it is. I'm excited for this weekend of football. I know you are too. We'll be back next week to preview the AFC and NFC championship games. But until then, Wesley, why don't you tell everyone where they can find your work with the Dome Patrol podcast as well on social media?
Yeah. And by the way, the week after that, don't worry, you'll be able to find us for your Pro Bowl coverage.
Yes.
So don't worry, we're not taking a week off. We will be here. You can find me on the Dome Patrol. You can find us on X at Dome Patrol PCast. You can find me on X at Wesley13. Jeff, where can we find you and your Steelers draft coverage?
Yeah, that's a very poignant. If you want to find us, it's the Fire Mike Tomlin Network. No, I'm just joking. It's the Steel Curtain Network.
Are y'all trading him to the Cowboys? Is that happening?
Not
y'all
yet.
trading Mike Tomlin to the Cowboys?
The Jets, actually. But anyways, that's for another. Steel Curtain Network and steelcurtainnetwork.com. You can find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN _PIT. Wesley, man, thanks for your time, man. We'll talk next week. Enjoy the games.
Thank you.